is going on, grinders? It's Chief, it's Tim, it's TJ, it's a TWT weekend, the winning team. We are here to help you navigate this interesting Sunday slate with what I think we're going to find out, guys. There's tons of options today on both sides. So that's how I'm feeling, at least. Hopefully, you guys somewhat agree. But I'm not here to get in your way. I'm here to just steer the ship. Tim, how are we doing?
Doing well, Will. Good to see you both. Fun little Sunday slate here. There's a lot that you can do in both cash games and GPPs. A lot of different ways you can go. This slate is pretty fun, actually. So I'm pretty excited, and I'm also pretty excited that NBA is finally going to be over after today. So regular season ends today, so no more NBA content. So that's a happy day for me. I'm looking forward to watching the playoffs, but no more of this resting everybody stuff that the NBA does. So yeah.
Well, guys are resting today, and Tim, I put out a card in the prop shop earlier today, and basically what I said was, hey, this game doesn't mean anything. We're going to sit everybody card, not sit everybody. We're going to sit everybody in the second half. So it was like some Detroit players, and lo and behold, I pulled it up a few minutes ago. I said, we already got 2 DMPs. It's like, yeah, let's just cancel that card. Guys were already one was Jalen Duren, one was RJ Barrett, just in case they played. Like, these were guys from like Brooklyn, Toronto, Detroit, where if they went out there, I can assure you they weren't going to play the whole game. Like, rest assured, this coaching staff has no intentions of rolling out one of their, let's call it, future stars in a meaningless game. They may have played a quarter, but of course they've officially ruled them out altogether, which it is what it is. TJ, over to you. I know you dabbled in the basketball streets with all the rest of us, and baseball is here, and we're about to get rid of regular season basketball and the playoff basketball, which I actually really like a lot. How are you feeling today?
Feeling good. Yeah, I'm with Tim here. I'm excited for NBA regular season to be done. Him and I were up early today doing the expert survey at the same time. Tim, I saw your name in the little Google sheet there. And it was just like, dang, I would really, really rather be sleeping right now. But I actually haven't played NBA DFS for a few weeks now, just ever since it's gone wonky. And I'm excited to play it again when playoffs start. So looking forward for that, and looking forward to diving into MLB today as well, because I agree with Tim. It's a fun slate. We got some really fun Spidey bombs locked away today. I see the people already have enough likes for the first one. Let's get me 10 more likes, and I'll drop 2 right off the bat here. I know the people can do it. Get us up over 50, and I'll drop 2 right off the bat. Taking a page out of our guy Chop's book today with a couple of knockers back to back in the order. 4th and 5th for finally I get a homer day. I haven't had a homer day where I get to pick the Blue Jays all season long yet, and today's finally the day. Davis Schneider and Justin Turner are going back to back today. We got 2 Spidey bombs right off the front, right off the hop, and it's Justin Turner and Davis Schneider. Let's get us up over 75 likes, and I got a third for you as well.
Well, absolutely. It sounds like we need these likes to get us into the premium category for Spidey bombs. Speaking of RG Premium, there's never been a better time to sign up for Roto Grinders Premium. It's NBA, PGA, NCAA basketball, which is already passed, NHL, MMA, and MLB right around the corner. MLB is here. Get yourself a 6-month combo subscription at an exclusive price of $469.99. That's a savings of $250. Instead of buying 6 individual months of combo premium, you can give combo premium a test run with 3-day pass for $19.99. And if you want to test the waters, check the link in the description below. And of course, folks, you need to get into SimLabs. SimLabs is our expert DFS lineup generation tool from Roto Grinders and Fantasy Labs. Now available for MLB in beta. With a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built, correlated lineups for whatever you are playing. All the particulars are out of the way. Tim, cash games, pitching, both sites, what are we doing?
Yeah, so definitely Zach Wheeler is going to be your SB1 on DK. I don't think there's any question about that. seeing as like I play cash games and single entry, it's pretty tough SB2 today. There's realistically, I'd say like 7 guys I think you could pitch in cash games. I think Jose Barrios is probably the safest of those options. He's 8,100. We have plenty of value bats that you can use. So really, like, salary is not that much of an issue. So I think Wheeler Barrios is going to be like the chalk option, probably your safest option in cash games. I would not fault you if you wanted to go Wheeler and Cole Reagans either. I think Reagans is a really strong play. I think he has more, I guess, upside, but in cash, you're not really worried about upside. But like for single entries, if you wanted to like make a pivot, play Barrios in cash, play Reagans in single entry, I would have absolutely no problem with that. I think that at least like in single entry, maybe not in cash, I do kind of like Bailey over at 6,600. He's projected for around 15 fantasy points. He's facing Detroit. I expect that he's going to have a higher pitch count than he did last game, and he gets a really, really great matchup against Detroit. So I think he's pretty interesting also. And I also like Graham Ashcraft, 7,700. That White Sox lineup is just so abysmal. So I think that he would be an interesting pivot in single entry tournaments off of guys like Cole Reagans and Barrios. And then Nestor Cortez, he's popping in quite a few things when I was running Sims. I don't mind him. I don't think he has quite the strikeout upside that I'd like to see going up against the Guardians, but I do think his price is fairly fair. So there's really a lot of really good options. But I would start your cash build 100% with Wheeler on both FanDuel and DK, and then SB2 for cash, it's probably Barrios.
Okay, random question for you here, Tim, and then we'll hand this thing over to TJ. I'm in team. Let's start looking at the data as early as possible just to get a feel for where guys may be headed versus where they were last year. Like just to get kind of a view, like, hey, is something going wrong? Is something better? And then based on how drastic it is, then I start doing what I like to call a deep diver, going down a rabbit hole. How soon do you start looking at recent data, say over the past couple weeks? Like, what's kind of your threshold?
I mean, it really depends on the pitcher. If we have a big sample size, I'm barely looking at this year's data. Not at this point. Maybe ask me in another month, but yeah, not at this point. Am I looking at, unless I'm seeing some kind of like massive velocity dip? Maybe that would be concerning. But in terms of like broader context of data, I'm not really looking at this year all that much. If it's a younger guy, though, I got to look at everything I can, right? So I would look at this year's in some capacity, but if we have a large sample size, I'm not really looking at this year that much. Okay, cool. And I'll tell you the reason I asked. I actually asked that because of Zach Wheeler, and it has nothing to do with Zach Wheeler. Actually, I just wanted to kind of see where his numbers were versus like usual, and pretty much he's right on pace with his usual numbers. Like, but this team he's facing today, I just want to kind of cement your point. This Pittsburgh Pirates team right now is hitting for 0 power this season so far, like just none. And so for a guy that's already going to get induced a lot of soft contact, even if he only gets 5 strikeouts today, Tim, I expect the runs to be very minimal, and he can probably eat through 7 innings. Like I'm not saying he will. I'm saying I think it's possible if they're not going to hit for a whole lot of power. So that's really why I was asking, because this Pittsburgh team, when I looked at the power numbers, I was actually shocked that they only had 2 guys above 200. I guess I shouldn't have been, but it still caught me off guard. That was my reason for asking. Sorry to take the show off the rails right out of the gate. TJ, pitchers, tournaments, what are we doing?
So I'm keeping a very tight pool today. And you know what? Somebody I did not have in it, but I'm going to consider running another set 100. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm not, because I already reset all my settings. And so I'm just going to hope Tim is wrong on this one and hope Graham Ashcraft doesn't get any points because I didn't have him in the pool, and I've already reset all my settings so I could screen share. And so I'm not updating my 150 build now, but I have a very tight pool of pitchers today. Jose Barrios, Zach Wheeler, Cole Reagans, Bailey Ober, and then I'm actually mixing in just a touch of Brian Bayo as well, because I don't think this Angels lineup is all that great outside of Trout, outside of Ward. So I do have a touch of Brian Bayo in there, but it's mostly Reagans, going cheap to Bailey Ober, Zach Wheeler, Jose Barrios. My big kind of fade today is I have 0% Corbin Burns. I don't consider the early season data too much into things, but I do like looking at if a team is playing really well, if a team is on a little bit of a hot streak at any point of the season. And Milwaukee's been one of the best hitting teams in baseball so far this year. And so with Corbin Burns up over 30%, he's expensive. There's other pitchers I like. He's the one guy I'm going to fade so that I can make sure I'm overweight on all the rest. And then additionally, we have reached enough likes for Spidey Bomb number 3. Let's keep getting these likes up. I got a 4th Spidey Bomb at 100 likes. Reminder, they went 2 for 2 yesterday with Ryan Mountcastle and Pete Alonso double donging. Spidey Bomb number 3 is Tyler O'Neill. And I got a 4th one for the people coming at 100 likes. That's even sneakier.
All right, there you have it. That picture, TJ running a tight pool today. Tim's giving out his cash picks. And I think a lot of people, I was trying to think through this. I assumed Barrios was going to be high on today. That Colorado matchup, I think, has proven to be one of the best ones of the season. So far, them in Minnesota in terms of strikeouts, even though we didn't really see Schoolball get there, that was still a great matchup for him. But this Colorado matchup, man, Barrios is projected for 25% with all the pitching we have today. I think that on DraftKings, excuse me, let me clarify. On DraftKings, he's projected for 25%. I think that tells us all we need to know. Tim, I know we don't typically play a whole lot of catcher on FanDuel, so let's cover catcher on DraftKings. If any of them overlap, I guess we can let the people know, and we'll carry this thing into first base once you're done.
Yeah, and actually, I think we just had an ownership update, Will, and Barrios is up to 32% now on DraftKings. And I just wanted to touch on Corbin Burns real quick. I'm not considering him for single entry. He's at 32% owned. He's projected to be in the optimals only 10% of the time, he's very negatively leveraged. So I'm not considering Burns. I think he's a pretty tough matchup for him. So I'm not considering him for single entry. But yeah, so moving on to what catcher, right, Will? So definitely Alejandro Kirk at 3,100, batting in the 7 hole, I think is your cash game option. I think that there are other ways you can play catcher though, even in cash, like Ryan Jeffers batting second. 3,700, I think, is a really strong play. I think it's kind of a coin toss between those two. I think if you have the money, I think you should play Jeffers just because of that lineup spot. And then if you have a lot of money, my favorite overall catcher is Adley Rutschman. So he's likely going to be my catcher in my single entry team. But I think cash games, it's pretty easy. I think it's Kirk or Jeffers. Yeah, so that would really be my cash game single entry pool.
Okay, TJ, over to you. Let's cover catchers for tournaments, if any, and then we'll kick it back to Tim and we'll be on first base.
Yeah, so Kirk is definitely a top option here. I agree with Tim. I love David Fry as a cheap option today, batting 5th against Cortez. $2,900, nice cheap option. I mentioned I don't want to play Burns. I actually do want to play Milwaukee, and so Gary Sanchez is another guy that I really, really like for tournaments, either as a one-off or part of a Milwaukee stack. And then Ryan Jeffers is probably the next guy that I'm getting to the most here, batting second for Milwaukee.
Okay, sounds good. Tim, big position here today. First base, fair amount of options, some really good ones in certain spots. How are you approaching first base today? I mean, first base to me today is, loaded, especially on DraftKings.
Yeah, catcher was pretty easy. First base is not easy at all. It's really like, I mean, you want to play Vlad, right? But you want to prioritize Vlad as like your top spend up on the slate. That I'm not sure about. So Vlad is your top option if you have the money. Encarnacion Strand is $1,000 less. He's definitely an option. I'm very, very high on the Reds overall today. They're simming really well. They're projecting really well. So I'm very high on the Reds. I think conceivably you could even save with Bobby Dahlbach at 2,800 batting fifth. I think he would be okay. Probably might be better at third base. I'm not really sure, but I think he's at least a viable cash game play. Same thing with Alex Kirilloff at 3,800. He might be better off in the outfield, but he's still somebody I'm considering. And then I really like Ryan O'Hearn for part of my Orioles stack.
Yeah, O'Hearn, I like that call, Tim. That's one where, I mean, he's cash game viable, but he's borderline. People may not play him as much today because you know how it goes at first base. We programmed ourselves to play the high 4K, low 5K, and the 5K range, and sometimes these cheaper guys are just they're just good plays. You have to play them. So I love that call on O'Hearn. TJ, over to you, first base. What are we doing?
A lot of the same guys as Tim today. Obviously, I'm going to be overweight on Vlad. I bet him to hit a home run. I think he's a great DFS play. Justin Turner, I love as well, but I'm more likely to play at third base. Like the Kirilloff call quite a bit. Same with Ryan O'Hearn, two guys that I'm getting to a lot in tournaments. For somebody a little sneakier, I like Matt Olson. And then, I do like Matt Olson, spoiler alert. I like Wilmer Flores. I like Bryce Harper, but then very sneaky, spending all the way up to Matt Olson in a lefty-lefty matchup. He's going to be totally unknown, and he's one of the best hitters in baseball. It doesn't matter if it's a lefty. So I love Matt Olson in tournaments as well.
Sounds good. Tim, back over to you. We're going to second base. As I always say, this is usually a position that's not as strong as some of the others, but I think we've got some options today, some big names in, let's call them tougher spots than others, but I still think we've got a fair amount of options here. What do you want to do at second?
Yeah, I think if you're not playing Jonathan India, then I think you have to go down. This is not a position that I want to spend up at in cash games. But I think Jonathan India at 4,300 is completely fine. Julian at 3,700, I think is completely fine also. If you're not playing either one of those two guys, I think you just have to punt it. Like maybe Colt Keith, something like that, or maybe even like an Adam Frazier or somebody like that, like somebody like really, really cheap. I think that I really like Jackson Holiday, but that's more of a GPP play. That's not a cash game play. Same thing with Westberg, another good GPP play. But if you're not playing India, I would just try to go lower. I don't really want to play like Albies or Semien or Altuve in cash.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying like that top tier today, Albies, Altuve, Semien, really good players, all in my opinion, tougher spots today. Albies maybe has a slightly easier one because he's going to have the platoon advantage against Luzardo, but Luzardo's still a good pitcher long term, I think. So TJ, over to you. Tim's talked about what he wants to do in cash games. Either India probably going down. What are your thoughts for tournaments?
So first things first, I got to check. Do we have 100 likes yet for Spidey Bum? Oh, we're 6 away. Give me 6 more likes and we got Spidey Bum number 2 because he is at the second base position. And guess what? It is my guy. It is J3's guy. It's Edouard Julien for the Twins, knocking one out of the park against Jack Flaherty today. I believe he's got some absolutely juicy odds. What do we got Julien at today? Yes, you can get it for plus 775. Plus 700 at DraftKings, up as high as plus 775 some other places. So Edouard Julien is going to be Spidey Bomb number 4. If we get up over 125, guess what? I got a 5th Spidey Bomb. I love this slate today. So let's keep it rocking. Second base, Julien is obviously a guy I love. India I'm getting to quite a bit as well, but a cheap one-off that I like a lot for tournaments is Colt Keith. Maybe this is the MLB The Show bias in me, but he's in my Diamond Dynasty lineup, and he's going to be in some of my DFS lineups today as well. And then Ozzy Albies as a contrarian spend-up play I like quite a bit. Jackson Holiday in the mid-tier, I don't mind one bit. I like Baltimore quite a bit today.
All right, sounds good. And listen, Edouard Julien can hit a home run after he strikes out twice. I need Flaherty to pick up 6 strikeouts today. I played him at more than 5.5. But Julian's more than welcome to hit a home run. In fact, he can hit off the bullpen if he likes as well, TJ. I don't care. Just strike out a few times as well along the way. That's how we want to see it. Tim, over to you. We're going to the hot corner. It's third base. What do we want to do there?
Yeah, third base is not really that great today. Kind of tough. I think Javier Candelario is probably my favorite. The only problem is he's batting 7th, which is not amazing for cash games. I think Luis Rengifo batting 2nd against Bello is at least viable. I can't get up to guys like Austin Riley or Jose Ramirez. Do I trust Justin Turner in cash? Great lineup spot, great matchup. So he might be the play. I'm not sure if I'm going to make that click or not. I talked about Bobby Dahlback. I kind of might take the savings with him, even though it just kind of, it's just not a great position today. A lot of mediocre plays, let's just say. I think Pablo Reyes at 3K is viable in cash. He's cheap, 3K. But I think if I'm going to go a cheap Red Sox, I want to go with Bobby Dahlback.
All right. Sounds good. Tim, once again, man, give us the juice. Doesn't want to play up top. Doesn't mind a little bit of slight mid-range. Bobby Dahlback, if he's going all the way to the bottom. TJ, third base, tournaments. What do we want to do?
So it's like Tim said, it's a pretty gross position, but I actually do like it for tournaments. Justin Turner, Spidey Bomb, obviously going to be my favorite. Anytime I can get him against a lefty, I want to do that. Righty, not so much. But lefty Justin Turner, give me all of it, especially a guy like Kyle Freeland. Willie Castro is probably my next favorite guy here for tournaments. Heimer Candelario, I love as well. Austin Riley, I'm going to try and spend up for as much as possible. I think he probably hits a home run today. And then Ernie Clement going all the way down is, I think, a cheapie that's lower owned, a nice way to get cheap exposure to the Blue Jays. And then Michael Garcia is another guy I don't mind because I do like, I forgot to mention it at first with Vinny P, but I do like a Royal stack today as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Tim, shortstop, another position that is typically interesting because there are usually some really good ones up top. But it's one of those weird positions where do you always want to spend up? The good guys most of the good guys are in okay matchups. What do we want to do at shortstop?
Yeah, I think shortstop is a position that I want to spend up on definitely today. Bobby Witt at 6'4". I mean, he's one of the best DFS players going this season. Great pedigree. I mean, he should be good. So it's not like abnormal to see him doing so well. So I love Bobby Witt. I love Gunnar Henderson at 5,400. And then Bo Bichette at 4,900 in the best matchup on the board. So really, it's those 3 guys. For me in cash games, I'm probably going to go Gunnar Henderson just because I'm really high on the Orioles for my single entry team. And then I'm probably going to go Bo Bichette in cash. But I mean, really, any of those guys. And then Ellie De La Cruz, he's probably too expensive, but I mean, great matchup. I mean, he could get there. He would be, 5th out of those top 5 guys. And then you got guys like, like Lindor's okay. Trey Turner's okay. I think this position is a clear spend up position today.
All right. Sounds good, Tim. A lot of good options. I must say, Bobby Witt carried me to some nice earnings earlier this week, Tim, on one of those smaller slates. I think it might have been the 3 game. I mean, I think it was a 3 game where Kansas City just went nuts. 9 runs in the first. I was well over the field on Witt, probably by about 20%. That was a good day. So Bobby Witt definitely loved that call. TJ, shortstop, tournaments. What are we doing, brother?
I agree with Tim. The opportunity cost of this position is so high today because it's probably the top position on the entire board. Bo Bichette, Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt, Corey Seager. Those are the top 4 for me. I want to get Corey Seager is going to be the lowest owned, so I want to get a lot of him, as much of him as I can. But Gunnar Henderson, Bo Bichette, Bobby Witt, all 3 I love as well. De La Cruz does fall lower than those 4 for me. And I'm actually probably more likely to go mid-range instead of to De La Cruz with Anthony Volpe leading off. I don't mind him. Josh Smith for Texas against the lefty, I don't mind, but I'm probably more likely to play him at third base because it's a lot weaker. And then 2 other guys, they're only in stacks for me, but I do like them in the mid-range as well. Orlando Arcia and Willy Adames.
All right. Sounds good. Tim? And I like that Adames call too, by the way, TJ. I do like that call. Tim, headed to the outfield. Whole lot of options here. We can go anywhere. Down, mid-range. I mean, I built lineups with all 3K options before. I've built some with like 2 5K guys. So many things you can do. What do you want to do in tournaments for the outfield?
Well, in tournaments, I'm looking to spend up. In cash, I mean, probably in cash, I'm looking to spend up too. Like, I can't get to Acuna in cash, but like guys like, Will Benson is definitely in the cash game conversation. I think you should be playing Will Benson in cash games today. I think your tournament spend up for the Reds would be a guy like Spencer Steer, part of your Red stacks. But then you got guys like Schneider batting 5th for the Blue Jays. So I mean, there's tons of different outfielders that you can get to. It's really like, Tyler O'Neill, probably like one of the best one-offs on the entire slate. Definitely a cash game play. Could play him in tournaments. Jarren Duran too is a great GPP play for the Red Sox. Anderson is traditionally a reverse splits lefty, so I think Duran's a really, really strong play. And then obviously, guys like George Springer batting leadoff at 4,600. You could definitely play him in cash. Definitely play him as part of your Blue Jay stacks. So, I mean, there's tons of different ways that you can go about it. Jake Fraley, he's currently in my single entry team, part of my red stack. Anthony Santander batting 3rd. Colin Ray really gives up a lot of hard contact, and he's high ISO to lefties. So I'm trying to attack Ray with some of these Baltimore left-handed hitters.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that call. I mean, Baltimore, in my opinion, at home today too. Pretty nice weather, a little bit of wind blowing out, Tim. I mean, they might end up being a premier stack today, like sneaky. I don't want to say sneaky, because when I looked over the ownership in the outfield specifically, it's so spread out today because of all the game. Like, nobody's really over-owned. But I do think, if you take a shot on a guy, like you said, like Santander, if you get 5 to 6% over on the field, that could be enough to carry you to the top. So love that call on him today. TJ, over to you. We're talking about tournaments here in the outfield. Angels in the outfield. How are we handling that today?
So first thing I want to point out is anytime you can get a low-owned Ronald Acuna, you take low-owned Ronald Acuna and you make it work. 6% projected ownership right now. I want to make sure I'm heavily overweight to that. I like Will Benson. Obviously, Davis Schneider, a Spidey Bomb, is going to be a priority for me, as is Tyler O'Neill, another Spidey Bomb. We're 10 likes away from the 5th and final one, so make sure you hit that like button. I know we got like over 400 people watching on YouTube. I think over 800 total across the sites. Should be nice and easy. Smash that like button. Let's get 10 more. And I got one last Spidey Bomb. I like the Spencer Steer call that Tim made. Kyle Schwarber at low ownership, I think, is a phenomenal play today. I think he's likely to hit a home run. I like the Santander call. Evan Carter, a lefty against Javier, I think is a really strong play today. Marcell Ozuna, 5K. 2% projected ownership against the lefty. Come on, it doesn't matter. It's a bad ballpark. Marcell Ozuna smashes them 450 yards when he knocks them out of the park. Feet, not yards. That would be crazy. Jorge Soler, I think, makes for an interesting one-off. And then MJ Melendez is another mid-range one-off. I like to hit a home run today. Looking at some cheaper options. Nothing super down low that I really like, but Willie Castro at 3K I think is fine. Tyler Freeman against the lefty Cortez at 2.8K I think is interesting. And even though I love Reagans today, I don't mind some 2.7K Tyrone Taylor as a one-off against them.
All right, sounds good. We're about 14 minutes from lock, so we're making great time here. We're going to get to all of your questions. I am going to be starting in live stream chat. Before we do that, going to come back to our amazing analysts here. I'm going to ask them one quick question, and then we will try to get into your questions. I think they've been answering some in the YouTube chat already as we've gone along. So, Tim, I know for sure that you like the Reds today, so you don't have to cover the Reds. I know that's like one of your stacks, especially for cash. If you had, let's do it this way this week. Give me a primary stack that you like outside of the Reds. I know Tim likes the Reds, so I think you already covered that. A primary stack, and then maybe a secondary stack that you like on the slate today.
Yeah, for me, it's the Orioles are number 2. Reds number 1, Orioles number 2. I do want to say one thing real quick. Colton Cowser, 3,500 outfield batting 6th. He should be in your cash games today on DK. So I apologize for missing that. He's definitely a cash game play, and I missed that one. So Colton Cowser batting 6th.
I missed them too, but he's a phenomenal tournament play also.
Yeah, so definitely just wanted to bring that up real quick. So I apologize for that.
Man, no problem. Listen, man, nobody's perfect on this show, but we got him in. We missed it, but he made it. He made the cut. He's made the cut.
We have 125 likes as well, so I dropped the 5th Spidey Bum on the screen. Gunnar Henderson. Tim and I both love Baltimore today. Gunnar Henderson's leading off with a homer, and he is Spidey Bum number 5. So we got Justin Turner, David Schneider, Tyler O'Neill, Edouard Julien, and Gunnar Henderson.
Sounds good. TJ, primary stack, secondary stack today. What are we doing?
Primary stack for me is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays. It's the first day of the season. I've really gotten to lock in on my homer team, being Canadian and play a ton of the Blue Jays. I'm doing that today. And then secondary stack for me is going to be Minnesota. But for what it's worth, I also love the Baltimore call from Tim.
Gotcha. I'm going over to the live stream chat here. This one's coming from Carolina Guy. I guess for me specifically, he said FanDuel GPP favorite pitcher, and then also favorite loan stacks. So let me just say today, Carolina Guy, I think most of your stacks are going to be most will be much lower owned just because of the size of the slate. I think if I'm going lower owned, it's most likely Baltimore for me. With the side of the Philadelphia Phillies, I don't think people are going to play the Phillies today against Mitch Keller, at least not as much. At least when I checked the ownership on FanDuel, didn't seem like they were getting to much Phillies. In terms of a GPP pitcher, I don't think there's anybody that would argue with me that if Blake Snell's right, he could get there. You're not going to like it. It's an experiment, but it's really more of an upside play. So nobody wants to play Blake Snell, especially after that first start. I could easily see him pulling the Lodolo and coming out and getting 7, 8, 9 strikeouts today. But that's deep tournament stuff. You ask me GPP, that's deep tournament stuff. I would not be advocating playing Blake Snell in single entry or 3-entry max. But if you're talking about getting into some huge GPPs, Blake Snell for me in tournaments, man, if he's on, look out. So yeah, there you have it. Sorry I took so long with that question. NBA DFS says Julian or Rutschman, FanDuel cash utility tip. Julian or Rutschman?
I just gotta check. I would go Rutschman, definitely.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Let me keep this with you, Tim. This is single entry DK, okay? Single entry DK, Wheeler and Graham Ashcraft, or Wheeler and Berrios.
I would go Ashcraft. Ashcraft's getting the best positive leverage on the entire slate, so I'd go Ashcraft.
All right, sounds good. This was coming to you, TJ. This is from RC Player 07. Is it Rake Fraley season? Referring to Jake Fraley, obviously. Is it Rake Fraley season?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here we go. Coming back to the YouTube chat. I'm starting where Tim picked up from Jar Dog TV's question. So we're starting from there. Eric asked, Judge or Soto on DK? Gonna assume tournaments, TJ.
Judge.
All right, here we go. Jardog TV says, is it trusted to pick Christian Encarnacion? I'm going to go with yes. Tim likes him quite a bit today. Royals versus Butto. TJ, tournaments. I'm going to assume tournaments here. Royals versus Butto. I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I love the Royals today.
Okay. Here we go. This is also coming from Jardog TV. Going to keep looking back over to Tim. Pascantino. How do you feel about Pascantino? Is he a good pick today?
I guess he's okay. I think there are other first basemen that I would prioritize over him.
Yeah.
You know, he's 4,300. I mean, he's okay. He's fine.
Okay. All right. I'm assuming tournaments. This could be cash, but I'm going to assume tournaments because of the first part of the question. Straight up on DK TJ, Reagans or Barrios? Reagans or Barrios? Straight up on DK.
If the rest of your lineup is somewhat chalky, Reagans. If you're playing a sneakier stack, then Barrios.
Okay, staying with you, TJ. FanDuel tournaments. This is from We Major 72. Is Tyler Anderson viable for FanDuel tournaments?
No.
Okay, good. Moving down. This is coming from Danelle. Is Butto viable for FanDuel tournaments? TJ.
I don't think so. No.
Okay, Tim, kicking this one back over to you. We've already answered it. I'm going to answer it for you. Sorry about that, Tim. They asked the same question, basically. Barrios or Ashcraft for SP2 on DK. I think you roll with Ashcraft because of the positive leverage. Is that correct?
Yeah, in GPPs, I'd go Ashcraft. In CAC, I'd go Barrios.
Okay. This is coming from, let's stick with you, Tim, coming from Dr. Jimmy James Johnson Jr. Any Gavin Sheets love?
Not really. I don't really want any pieces of the White Sox, to be completely honest.
Okay. Jar Dog back again. He said, is it smart to pick Spencer Steer or Edward Julien? TJ.
I would go Steer still.
Yeah, I think he was asking for both, but yeah.
Then yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. This is coming from RC Player as well. I'm back in the live stream chat. Thoughts on an Orioles wraparound stack? Going to give that one to Tim. I know he likes him, and I know TJ does too. Thoughts on let's get up to TJ. That's probably more tournaments. Thoughts on an Orioles wraparound stack? Love Westberg and Holiday today.
Heck yeah, I think that's a great tournament stack.
Okay. Any love for Mullins? Is he a good play from the bottom of the order?
Yes.
I love that. I love that bottom of the order, those outfielders for the Orioles today. I love them.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Tim, and I know I mentioned it earlier, but this is one of those scenarios where I talked about sometimes you end up with 3K outfielders because if you pull off the wraparound, and I know I can't remember if they're all 3K or not, but like when they're all cheap, you pull the wraparound, and then believe it or not, especially if you're stacking 5 men deep on DK, you can probably get Rutschman at the top of the order, and then you might be able to plug in like 2 or 3 really nice one-offs, like a Vlad, like a not Justin Turner, like a Riley from Atlanta. Like you get to do some interesting creative things where initially you may not have thought about running 3 one-offs, but because you got the salary to pull it off, you take the big bats, and if they hit, you're looking good. So love that. And I don't see any more questions. Now, Jason Garnett is telling us, he says, yo, don't play my Orioles wraparound. Holiday doesn't want your ownership. He's trying to convince us off of it. Good for you, Jason. And then J3 says Orioles are a team of destiny. We'll find out. They've got to last a whole season. Long way to go. Mr. Irrelevant, coming in with the question. QQ, large field DKGPP. This is for you, TJ. I'm playing 2 pitchers today under 7,300. Both were mentioned as plays on the show. Just wondering if playing them together is too risky. I know what I think. What do you think, TJ?
Who's the second one? One of them being Ober. Who's the other one under 7,300?
I bet it's Cortez.
I like Ober. I don't like Cortez. I'm stacking a little bit against Cortez.
So I think for what TJ's saying, I think he thinks that's a little bit too risky.
What it's worth, the bat likes Nestor Cortez.
Yeah.
I like Cortez.
Understood. We are very close, folks. We are 3 minutes from lot. Hopefully we cleared up those questions. Not sure if you guys wanted to talk about pitching, but I did have a K of the bidet, and it is none other than Jack Flaherty at 5.5 strikeouts. I think he's actually going to pick them up today against the Minnesota Twins. I just think there's too many strikeouts up and down the lineup. Even if he gives up some runs, I think he gets the strikeouts. 5.5 strikeouts. I want more than that projection. And I was looking over Boston. Guys, look, this one might be a little bit more risky than what I usually do, but I'm going to throw this one in the sauce. Tyler Anderson was at 16.5 pitching outs. Boston's struggling real bad against lefties today. Do I like Tyler Anderson? No. Do I like making money? Yes. This is why I'm taking the prop. It's got nothing to do with Tyler Anderson. It's all about the situation. Tyler Anderson's actually going, I think, 7 innings in back-to-back starts. So he's stretched out. If Boston comes in and just, is hacking away and ground ball outs again, then we could be looking at a really nice proposition there. This is coming from Tom, QQ. Chipper Jones or Phil Nevin? As an Atlanta fan, Tom, I'm going to go with Chipper Jones. Really like him as a prospect. I think he's going to do really well in the organization. Jardog TV, Jose Barrios or Tyler Anderson? Tim, I think you're going to go Barrios. I think
Definitely
you're also going to go Barrios. TJ, so I don't even have to do that. DKGPP, this is coming from TJ Moose Manzada. DKGPP, Cortez or Ashcraft? TJ, Cortez, Ashcraft, which one?
Cortez.
Cortez.
I don't like either, but Cortez.
I got you.
I'd rather go
Tim
Orber.
likes Ashcraft and Cortez. That's probably a better question for Tim. Because Tim's not going to be biased here. Tim's like both of these guys. Tim, Cortez or Ashcraft? Which one is it?
I'd go Ashcraft in a GPP.
Gotcha. Henry said Seager versus Houston. See, and that's the tricky part. Well, we're about to run out of time. TJ, over to you. Seager versus Houston.
Love Seager. Love Seager.
So, Tim, let me ask you this. Since we're about to close this thing out, because we don't really have a whole lot of questions. If one comes in, I will stop talking and squeeze it in. I'm in the camp that I don't mind taking good bats in seemingly rough spots if the ownership is low enough. So, like on a slate like today, where Seager's not going to get the ownership like he would on a normal slate, this is where I like to kind of take some of those, when I say stabs, I'm saying put him in a couple. Even if I'm not stacking Texas, I'll one-off him. I'll one-off a Kyle Tucker, or Alvarez, like these types of spots. What are kind of your thoughts on the expensive guys in not as good of a spots as some of the other teams, but just being really good hitters long-term?
Well, like TJ said, like when you could get Ronald Acuna at 6% in a tournament, why wouldn't you play that? That's a great play. I think that's how you win, really, really large field GPPs, is taking very, very risky shots on great hitters in perceived bad matchups. Yeah.
I'll say this as we close out, because I know you guys are probably ready to go. One of the best nights I had in baseball, I stacked Houston and Minnesota. This was a couple years ago. I stacked Houston and Minnesota when nobody else did. I mean, I'm talking about most of these guys, Tim, were 2% and 3% that night. Like, I mean, it was just one of those weird days. I looked over the slate. The slate wasn't great. And I said, well, why? I said, everybody's going to stack up the bad team because they're in a good spot. I said, I'm just going to stack up the good team in like a weird spot. It wasn't impossible. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I mean, they routed off 10, 12 runs that day, 4 or 5 home. It was something stupid. And I looked at the end of the night, and I actually didn't realize what was happening because I wasn't really following along. And I opened up my phone, and I mean, I think at the time, I didn't finish there, Tim. I think at the time I was somewhere north of 200K. I didn't finish there, but I said, oh my God, I did a double take. You know, when I open my phone, I'm not really like expecting to see 200K right out of that. I opened it and I said, oh, wait a minute, what time? So then I went and started looking and realized Houston had just gone slap off. I said, okay, well, it's probably going to be a good night. I think I ended around like 186K. Here's why that was one of my better nights, though, Tim. I single entered everything. I didn't play multi-entry. I put one in the monster real late. And so what ended up happening, I won like the 888 monster, the $44, the Grand Slam at the time when they were putting 50K up top. They don't do that anymore. So that's what happened. I ended up playing like that one in the monster and like some single entry stuff, and it ended up coming out to like 180 something. But that's how it was. So no multi-entry, and that's why it was one of my biggest nights because I only ran one lineup and everything. Unbelievable. Right. Couldn't believe it. So at any rate, guys, thanks for joining us. It's been a really cool Sunday. Tim, love you, brother. TJ, love you. TWT, well, hopefully, I think we'll be back next Sunday. Maybe. I didn't see the schedule update, but I'm going to assume we're here until we're not. I'm Chief. That's Tim. That's TJ. We'll see you next week.